Good morning, beautiful world, friends and family, human and otherwise. I'm going to do a short. Oh my goodness, I don't believe it. Ah, I am sorry. Oh my goodness. I gotta share this with you. Oh my gosh. Since 2000 and what would it be now? 18, 19. I don't know, 7 years maybe, 6 years maybe, 7 years. I have lost count. I didn't count. I am growing a peyote cactus. And today is the very first day. I was away for 2 days. The very first day ever, a flower is showing up out of its top. Oh, I could cry. Wow. Oh my goodness. I should share a photo with you. I won't, simply because I don't think anybody cares for it. If you do, let me know. I'll fit one in somewhere. Gorgeous. Oh my goodness. All right. How's that in the earth wave spell? I want to do a short video to yesterday, which I did not get around to making. Simply for my own sake, really, because I aside from the minutes that I had, I tried. Did I try? No, I did think about the kin yesterday. I just didn't get very far, and I thought it was a shame. I had a very brief chat with a friend of mine about it, and it also didn't go deep. I think I couldn't really get the focus in yesterday. I'm gonna give it a go now, because I love the depth to which I go myself in the exploratory process here. And it yesterday involved 2 seals that the Earth and the mirror, Earth wave spell, mirror, Lunar Mirror yesterday, both of them are not as easy to grasp for me. Or it's not that, yeah, it must be that. I want to see how they relate, especially on the lunar tone. And in a spin of 260 days, each day only shows up once. Each seal and kin and tone only shows up once, which means anything I skip, I get to wait 9 months before it shows up again in this constellation. And the benefit of me diving this way into these seals definitely outweighs any focus issue I might have, or any feeling of like, and I definitely, since the second half of the spin, I am experiencing not the same kind of flow in coming here as I did the first half. Maybe it's springtime and yang time and action time, and my days, my calendars, my mind, my interests are full. I'm full of passion and fire for what I'm doing and what I'm learning and where I'm heading. That this is not getting the attention that it deserves. So I gotta keep my shoulder line a little. Gotta keep myself towing the line a little. Oh, sorry. Every now and then I'm yawning. I do not like yawning into a microphone. I have not yet oxygenated my body enough this morning. White lunar mirror, reflect timelessness. No, timelessness is the wizards. Endlessness, reflect order. And the red earth. In a way, I could stop right here, because that's just it, right? I mean, that's simple enough. but now add to it the guide, love, loyalty, heart, community, I want to use the word service in terms of being there for one another, being also the word interdependence comes to mind, and interdependence versus codependence, interdependence and independence. Independence is important. Codependence is interdependence gone wrong. Please bear with me. And on the lunar tone. So this dog guides this mirror on tones 2, 7, resonant, and 12, cooperative. That's quite significant. So how's love? If we, yeah, I could wrap it up in kind of like a sentence yesterday. If we are guided by love, if we're guiding ourselves with love, if we live through the lens of love, then it stabilizes our synchronicities. It stabilizes. I mean, synchronicities always happen, whether you recognize them as such or not. But you know what I mean? Synchronicities, the way we talk about, like, oh my gosh, some people call it coincidence, but we talk about synchronicities. It stabilizes them and it increases them and it brings us, it stabilizes our navigation, our evolution, our path and journey on this planet becomes not free from challenge, but very, very pleasant, very, very full of love. Because as we radiate it, as we're guided by it, and we can't fake it, cannot just pretend, the mirror reflects the truth. And in my experience, walking through life, and I can only reflect my own experience, which is very, very love-filled. I meet virtually only people who love me and who share love with me, even if it's just a greeting at a till in the shop. I mean, it's too much to say they love me, but it's an interaction that is filled with kindness and love and warmth and friendliness and respect, and that anything else happens to me super rarely. It does happen now and then, and it's good that way. It has to. It would be. I wouldn't know if it didn't. How would I? And I can reflect my way of living ever better as I get older, as I live longer. Let's put it that way. It's a much better way of saying that. As I live longer, because of what I hear from people, and that too is rare, but I do hear it occasionally, the experiences others have with others who can be very different. Where each time I'm like, I can hardly relate because I just don't experience life like that. I have love integrated in the sun. It's my antipodal power. My antipodal archetype to the sun is the white dog, and it's very integrated with me. Occasionally it's not. And when it's not, it's okay, unpleasant. So I can relate. But those experiences happen more. Well, here comes the mirror to reflect. I'm not going to do this one publicly because I admit that's embarrassing. Super embarrassing when I'm not in alignment with love, which means I'm not in alignment with myself, with my boundaries, with my truth, with myself in terms of feeling myself and being able to, red dragon being the medicine to the yellow sun. We all are yellow sun. We all have the sun. We all have that in us. It's nourished by nourishment. It's the medicine is caring for ourselves, which allows us to care for others. in not a self-sacrificing way, but in a very natural way. I don't sacrifice myself when I give water to my plants. I don't sacrifice myself when I sit and admire them. I don't sacrifice myself when I talk to them. None of that. It's in balance. And it's the same with other humans. There's no need for self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice shows up when we're out of alignment with ourselves. Probably more of a yellow star issue than anything related to that. We're not in harmony. We're not in coherence with ourselves. And anywhere the dog shows up, it's really a reminder of coherence. It's an absolute reminder of coherence between body, mind, spirit, and body, mind, spirit, and heart, I guess. Love, soul, maybe. In Tolkien terms, it would be a reminder of the harmony between dog, eagle, sun, and serpent, earth family, and their body-mind, that balance, which in turn is a reminder of whatever earth family we find ourselves in, to be in balance with all four of those aspects, which in turn is a reminder to be in balance with our four fellow musketeers, the other kins attached to our kin. So it's always a reminder for this balance. And the difference of this system, it just occurs to me, yes, we go through days and we can synchronize ourselves with the day seal, and that's well that we do. It synchronizes us with each other. It synchronizes us with a greater synchronizing tool, can I call it that? But it also is something we can do at all times. The archetypes, the constellations are around like this at all times. One can look at it like astrology, where like today the blue hand and the who else is there? Red moon. That's to attach tomorrow. Yellow star, in fact, is the antipode to the mirror. I didn't even think of that when I said that just now. So it's on the other side of the circle, but it always is always around, no matter how far away. And we're always reminded of the elements that are far away still assert an influence. And maybe, like in homeopathy, where the higher the dilution, the number of dilution, the more potent the medicine becomes. To our Western logic, that sounds ironic, I don't know, it sounds counterintuitive. But that should just remind us of how limited our Western logic is, and which reminds me of how ingrained we are in our way of thinking, in our way of logic, in our way of seeing the world, how deep these paradigms sit in us. Hard to question. And so good to look into other cultural paradigms which just break open our limited paradigms, and paradigms always limited to themselves, as it should be. But it can be very helpful to be able to realize that they're not cast in stone, that they are choices we make, they're frameworks we think within. They make for coherence, for sure, like cultural paradigms. They create cultural coherence. But you can be culturally coherent without being culturally rigid. Or international cultural literacy is becoming a prerequisite in the modern world, because it's kind of necessary to understand a little, at least, about other cultures. It goes a long way to say we have one humanity. We can always meet each other on that humanity. We all need to eat, we all need to laugh, we all need to have fun, but we may have a very, very, very different sense of humor. That's kind of like, I think that's a bit important to notice, to be a little bit aware of. If we're moving internationally through the world, and through social media we all are, and I have the suspicion that, you know, some people, a lot of the aggressiveness in the internet might actually stem from, I mean, we know there are like bots, and we know there are instigators of this kind of trouble, or this kind of disharmony in the internet, because it just makes for higher viewership. It triggers our defense and survival instincts in a way that is intended, and it's not healthy for us. And we have to become aware of that and stop clicking on the bait, so to speak. But I think sometimes people say things in writing that are heard by the listening ear, by the reader listener, very, very different from how it's meant. There is a kind of humor on this planet, or a kind of way of saying something that comes across to some of us as extremely rude. But to them it's not meant as rude as we're hearing it, and there's no way you can check it out. There's no way you can check it out. There's aspects of language in German, for example. We the young generation calls each other some words that for anyone who's kind of sort of above 30, it depends on how used to this language you are, but it's always a little bit like, are you being super rude or what? Or it's just very strange. When you're used to it, it's no longer an issue. It's like with these words. But if I wasn't used to it and I saw this on top of that in writing, I'd be like, what? How dare you? But it's meant affectionately, like dude. Like the word dude. It actually means dude. But the words itself are, for those of us who are not used to it, strange. So it's like, we gotta learn this stuff. We gotta keep the bridges also between the generations going. Is really important. Integration of ages, or different generations and cultures. And what does that? White dog. Guided by the world bridge. Oh, world bridge, you're guided by the white dog. Yeah, well, that's the world bridges 3, 8, and 13. Electric, galactic, and cosmic. It's guided by the world bridger. I'd have to check the waves now. I'm not going to, but those world bridgers are guided by love. And if you know a world bridger who's guided by love, I off the top of my head, I know one, and he is a world bridger guided by love. Like, if there was a manifestation of the archetype, he'd be it. Wow. Anyway, so there we have that. We have the antipod, the yellow star. So are we reflecting that love back to ourselves? Are we kind with ourselves? Do we love ourselves? In moments of making mistakes or doing something, what are we muttering under our breath? Are we calling ourselves an idiot, stupid? Are we doing that with loving kindness? Are we doing that with actual anger? How are we when we're not very conscious of our tailored, groomed kindness? How are we when we are our actual self? How are we when we're driving a car? It's a scary telltale, I'd say. But can we be loving and kind with our unkindness and our unloving sides? I would always recommend that, because if we observe our unkindness and we go into controlling ourselves into, I have to be kind, I have to be nice to myself, I have to be nice to others, that's not genuine. It's neither healthy either. I think rather, I don't know, in my world, I almost want to say rather be genuinely unkind than ungenuinely kind. Everybody gets to deal with the truth. We all have to learn that. The one giving an unkindness is a part of the party as much as the one receiving the unkindness. It belongs to the one as well. There's no victim in my books, in my world. I don't see it like that. So what is being reflected back? If we're in a family system and there's maybe, or a culture or classroom or a workplace, and there is, let's say, in the group, a person who's like a disruptor, really unkind, really problematic. It's not correct now to say, well, what would be correct to say? How would that reflect? What does that reflect of us? It does reflect something of us, within us, or it reflects something in the collective, in the group. And we're not used to, in the West, we're not used to addressing group dynamics collectively, holistically, with love, reflecting with love. The other day I was at a birthday party, and it went a couple of days, and the last day was a breakfast brunch, and there were maybe 10 of us. And the conversation that went around the group of us went on for hours. And it was so wonderful because but the entire time, only one conversation was happening. Everybody was listening to the one speaking, and the one speaking had as much time as they needed. Unlike what I personally am used to in group dynamics, as soon as one person starts talking, it doesn't take a very long time before other people start talking to each other away from the main conversation, which is, let me not judge it. It is what it is, but it is so peaceful when everybody can just listen and you as a group follow that one conversation. And then I commented on that and I said, I really appreciate how this group is able to communicate. How interesting everything everyone has to say is very interesting. It's still a conversation. It's not one person takes up hours and hours and hours and doesn't stop talking. When a person gets interrupted and hasn't finished the thought they're making, they know how to say, wait, I just want to finish what I'm saying. Hold your thought, please, or the question, and everybody respects that. And then the attention gets focused on the one who wanted to interrupt because they had something to say. Ideally, doesn't always work so perfectly, but it really is wonderful. And I commented on that, and then this man said, yeah, that's what we've lived in this kind of communities for. We have learned this way of communicating. We have learned it with each other. We've wanted it and we've learned it. And I thought that is just so great and so important. And everybody gets heard. And it's a way of learning also to communicate, to feel yourself, to word what you're feeling. And it's very, very important. And then to share that in a trusting environment. And to dig into what is it in you. If we're having a person in a group who is causing disharmony, even if it causes disharmony in me, but doesn't seem to just cause a disharmony in the collective, we would sit down collectively, and I would get to say, the thing you're doing or something about you, if I can name it and pinpoint it, I can. If I can't, I don't. I don't have to be rude about it at all. I can just say that thing causes this response in me. We don't know how to do that generally. If we know how to do that, everybody can take note, oh, huh. And the attention that I would get for in that moment, the quality of intention, and maybe the quality of guided questions, lovingly guided questions. That's the world bridger again, or the wind guided by the dog, or the dog, not the dog itself, really. I think the wind or the world bridger guided by the dog. Or the 13th world bridger. The world bridgers 3, 8, and 13 are guided by the dog, which in turn is guided by the mirror, which in turn is guided by the wind. They always guided by the next white sign. And that wind in turn is guided by the world bridger, so it goes full circle. But through that guided, loving attention and question, I can question myself and I can get to realize, you know what? This is what my mother did every time when I asked for something I needed, or frequently, or whatever, And I realized that really, really hurt me back then. Now I'm an adult. I don't need anything from you. You're doing that thing completely independent of me, but it triggers me. And instead of acting out my trigger and letting you control me, basically, and that in turn meaning I have to stay away from you, I start resenting going to work, maybe I even change my workplace. There's a million things that happen when we're not in charge of ourselves. This way I can understand my trigger, which usually by the time we recognize it, it dissolves. But I now have a community who can help me with it if I can't easily do it. The other person has an awareness of it. They don't need to change what they do, because chances are they're not even doing anything problematic. It's just a trigger to me. It could be another kind of situation where the person indeed does maybe do something slightly problematic, or that is considered, maybe, let's take a silly example, like someone just doesn't think nothing of burping or farting. Anyway, they are. To them, it's nothing offensive and it's not nothing weird. But to the collective, or to the enough of us in the group, it's offensive. So we can sit down and say, to us this is offensive or not a pleasant. So we find a compromise. Should all of us learn to live with it? Or is it possible, could you go could you go to the bathroom when you do that? Or could you find a way to do it silently? Or could you just move away? We can make a joke out of it. It's an easy way. There are many solutions for these kinds of things. But if we never communicate, and we, don't, and very often we have learned to even repress our sense of, this does not suit me, this is triggering me, this is not, I don't like that, or whatever, because we maybe have been shamed for our sensitivity, for our triggers, for whatever. And that is a snowball effect, that is down the line. I can never tire talking about the state of affairs in our retirement homes. Basically, like, it's all adds to a demise further on as we live longer that we don't understand. And I really caution against just taking a medicine. It's not necessary. Just change your way of living. We need to feel ourselves. That's navigation. So that's totally Red Earth. How are we navigating ourselves? How are we navigating through our lives? How are we with each other? And this challenge of the reflecting ourselves in each other, in our environments, in our social interactions, in our families. And of course, it can often be like, I am in such a situation and I cannot do anything about it because I can't get my family to sit on a table and do what you just said. Oh my goodness. Never, ever, ever. All right. What options do you have? Can you remove yourself from the family? Not necessarily permanently, although in some cases that is necessary too. But can you remove yourself enough that there's no need, you know, for being constantly exposed to the toxin, basically. And if you can't, well, there's your mirror, there's your reflection. There is that expression of something, some family dynamics, and often children display the family dynamics most clearly, because with adults it's often hidden and overlaid with lots of other dynamics and what. So, yep, also when children are born with so-called genetic defects, something worth looking at. I genuinely believe they're treatable. Western medicine, my little nephew has such a thing. A very, very rare genetic disease. And Western medicine, of course, can't cure it. Of course they can't. Duh. I mean, I won't go as far as saying maybe they caused it, but it's possible. Maybe some children get something into their immune system too early when the immune system ain't coping, and it changes something in there. What do we know? Do we know? Are we looking at that? Should we be looking at that? We should. Definitely we should. But if it's wherever it comes from, I kind of almost want to say it doesn't matter, because here it is. And but it does matter because we are a global collective. And if we're globally, collectively, we have also the mirror of the collective. And if we're having an incredible increase of autism, for example, it may reflect several of many things back to us. Whether or not we're linking it to the Jabberwocky effect, or whether we are linking it to the disconnect in the Western world, which has spread across large parts of the non-Western world and is increasingly spreading as materialism and sort of capitalism tends to disconnect us. It's a kind of like a byproduct in many ways, not necessarily every time, but it has a tendency. You can look at it like that. That disconnect in traditional Chinese medicine, which you may hear from me a few times now, that you have this Shen, this connection, hence the Shen Men point on the ear, the loss of connection. Now you can define connection to what? To something, to the divine, to truth, to ourselves, to each other. It's all the same as far as I'm concerned. I don't believe you can be connected to the divine and disconnected from your fellow humans. You can be a hermit and not have any dealings with other humans, or absolutely limited. But those dealings will not be disconnected from those humans. They will be connected. But you would just not live a life that is very socially active. As a hermit type person, most hermit type persons are not connected. But maybe it's possible to be very, very connected to yourself. Maybe you can be very connected to the divine and choose not to connect to the humanity around you, for the simple reason that you realize how disconnected everybody is. It's very hard for some sensitive souls. It's very hard to take. It's easy to be alone because there's nobody there who's disturbed, and most of us are disturbed. Most of us are sick, even though we're totally functioning. Huh? Do we go back to that Krishnamurti quote? It's like, yeah, so here I'm going on and on and on, but that's the white mirror in the lunar position, the challenge, the stabilizing, challenging, equalizing. Is it equalizing? Stabilize, equalize, challenge? Stabilize, challenge, stabilize, polarize, mix, equalize, polarize. My favorite concept, polarization. Yin and yang are the most beautiful, literally beautiful what is it? Projection of polarization. I mean, that's absolute polarization. But what was that quote I had in the beginning of the spin? Polarization is going, splitting or going further into one opposite, strengthening its other opposite, and then forming this mutually beneficial relationship. They don't cancel each other out. They shift and change and dance and whatever the case may be in different scenarios or setups. Oh, my body needs to move. I've been sitting still for too long, and I get to do a second episode. So I'm going to finish this one here. We have, who's beneath us? White mirror. We have the dragon in the analog. The nurturing, the nourishing is very, very important for the antipod. The relationship between analog and antipod of the same kin, it's very important. And that relationship is healed in the mirror, in this reflection of order and things being orderly, organized. It doesn't mean, who defines the order? You do, but it's your order. Some people seem to be living in a disordered state, but to them that's absolute order. Don't touch nothing. Like a forest floor. My dreams are just coming back to me. Oh, I dreamt about a lot of little dogs and squirrels. And my friends, somebody had a lot of little dogs and squirrels. Oh, and I was meeting friends from my childhood. It was such a joyful reunion. Oh, that's what you get when you fall asleep to TZM videos. Healing. Okay, his massage was also involved in that. Anyway, food was involved. Harmony, a lot of harmony was involved in that. And then we have the medicine beneath the star. The mirror has got to be blue. Night. Blue night, abundance, dream time. I'm so synchronized. I'm so synchronized. Red Earth, and I gotta see if any more of my dreams want to come through. If anything is destabilized, or if it's actually telling me I'm very stabilized. I did a lot of photo work this weekend. Normally I walk away with such back pain, and this weekend I did not have any back pain. I went to bed last night like, my back ain't hurting, and I attribute that to a lot of factors, but the support I'm giving myself through the ear acupuncture point treatments and just the awareness they raise in my body and the way my body feels supported by the whole of me, like, it's just, I'm loving it. I'm sorry. So, yeah, abundance. And there in all this abundance is this flower on my cactus. Oh, love, 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 love. So I wish you have had a beautiful, lovely day yesterday. And I wish myself I'm going to have some coffee now. I have not a lot of time. The next episode is hopefully going to be a little shorter. And yeah, have a love-filled, beautiful remembrance of yesterday. Or when you're listening to this day today, of course. I hope